Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, August 13. Celtic confirm Lowell transfer exit. Report by David Irvin. Celtic have confirmed the transfer exit of Bosun Lowell to Stoke City. The 21-year-old has signed a 4-year deal with the English Championship club after an undisclosed fee was agreed. Lowell, a Republic of Ireland under-21 international, has spent last season on loan at Fleetwood and was involved in pre-season with the Celtic first team. However, he has now joined Stoke City after being tracked by sporting director Jonathan Walters for several years. Discussing the move, Lowell told the Stoke City website, "The club is massive. It did not need selling to me. But when I spoke to Glenn Whelan and Charlie Adam, who coached me for Ireland and Fleetwood, what they said about Stoke City really excited me for my journey here. The gaffer and John are full of ambition, and that really attracted me. They want to take the club back to the highest level. I witnessed the electric atmosphere in the stadium firsthand on Saturday, which was so enjoyable to watch. I can't wait to be out there, experience that myself in the not-too-distant future, and to enjoy long-term success here at Stoke City." Stoke City sporting director Walters added, "Bosun is a player who I've followed closely for a number of years. After competing with several top clubs, we are proud to have secured his signature. Our ambitions are perfectly aligned, and we believe he possesses all the attributes to reach the very top of the game. He is not only a fantastic addition to our squad, but also a key part of our long-term vision for the club. We are confident that his talent and drive will make a significant impact as we look to achieve our goals together." The move comes after Brendan Rodgers had warned Lowell had to do more to make a breakthrough at Celtic, while discussing possible first-team roles for Odin Thiago Holm and the 21-year-old. And he had said, "I think the two boys that we mentioned have talent, but I want more, a lot more. If you have talent, you can play in teams, but not on our team." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, August 13. Nick Rodger reports Scottish Amateur Championship silver lining loses lustre. "It is nice to feel appreciated now and again. The sports editor, for instance, thinks I'm the salt of the earth. Well, he did mumble something about wishing I was kept in a cellar. Anyway, your correspondent occasionally receives the odd letter from avid readers expressing their gratitude for the pearls of wisdom that are delivered in the Tuesday column. At least I think it's gratitude. It can be difficult to decipher some of these epistles, as the paper upon which they are scribbled tends to be creased and crumpled from being wrapped around the bricks they came crashing through the window on. It's much easier to read an email these days, and one of my regular responders is a delightful gentleman by the name of Ian McCosh. Those of you from the grand golfing vicinity of Renfrewshire will no doubt know of Ian. He remains a passionate, enduring authority on amateur golf in that particular parish, and can probably still reel off the outward and inward halves of Barclay Howard's scorecards on his way to winning the Ralston Rose Bowl in 1986. The reason I bring Ian up is that he was cock-a-hoop about Kilmacombe golfer Alexander Farmer winning the Scottish Amateur Championship recently. The 19-year-old Farmer even brought the cherished old trophy to Ian's house, and the young un was no doubt treated to a meander down memory lane after joining celebrated Renfrewshire names like Stuart Murray, Gordon Murray, and Dean Robertson on this esteemed clump of silverware. Presumably Ian is now organising an all-singing, all-dancing open top bus parade for Farmer down the Lochwinnoch Road. It was a tremendous success for the Stirling University student, and one that he will treasure for many a year. Where the Scottish Amateur Championship itself sits in the grand scheme of golfing priorities these days remains up for debate, though. The recent staging of the event, for instance, was missing some of the main movers and shakers of the Scottish game. Callum Scott, the Nairn man who won the silver medal at last month's Open, gave it a miss, as did the talented Blairgowrie siblings, Connor and Gregor Graham. Cameron Adam, the reigning Scottish Amateur champion, did not defend his title, while Gregor Tape, who has been a beaten finalist in 23 and 22, was another notable absentee. There are numerous reasons, of course, for these various no-shows. Scheduling, the impact of World Amateur Golf Ranking, WAGR, points, tournament clashes, and good old-fashioned weariness after a hectic run of competitive action. It can all take a toll, and the Scottish Amateur Championship suffers. The other home nations face a similar issue with their own national championships. Devalued, losing their lustre? Some would say that. A rich history does not always guarantee a flourishing future for these prized staples of the domestic scene. Like everything these days, there's a heck of a lot to shoehorn into the diary. Planning a tournament itinerary is broadly equivalent to shoving loads of clothes into a bulging suitcase, sitting on top of it, and trying to close the zip. Something must give. In this crash-bang-wallop programme, the men's home internationals were played the week after the Scottish Amateur Championship. The week before, the St Andrews Trophy was held, with the aforementioned Graham brothers representing Great Britain and Ireland at Royal Porth Hall. This week, Scott and Connor Graham are competing in the United States Amateur Championship at Hazeltine. These are frenzied times. Then again, I'm sure some sturdy stalwarts from ye olden days will look at all of this and give a nonchalant shrug. They would, after all, pile in a whole host of events during a jam-packed campaign and still manage to hold down full-time employment. Those true career amateurs, now something that's almost as charmingly antiquated as a thatched roof, could spend 5 days a week polishing lace for a living, then go out and revel in the cut and thrust of a lively scene of keen competition, colourful characters, and camaraderie. The times have changed a bit. Here's what Hugh Stewart, the decorated Forest amateur of yore, wrote on his social media site recently. In 1973, I played in the Scottish Stroke Play, followed by the European Team Championship, the Open at Turin, the Walker Cup in the USA, the United States Amateur, and the home internationals, and I worked full-time in between. I missed the Scottish Amateur due to a poisoned hand. It was a decent excuse. Here in 2024, there are plenty of other excuses for missing the Scottish Amateur Championship. My old acquaintance Ian may have his concerns about its diminishing stature, but he can probably stomach it this year. He got a Renfrewshire winner after all. Hang up the bunting. And another thing, Lydia Ko has been around for yonks, and she's still only 27. Tempest Puget and all that. At the weekend, this remarkable Kiwi completed a tidy and historic set of Olympic medals when she won golfing gold in Paris, to add to the silver and bronze she had claimed in Rio and Tokyo. In a glory-laden career, Ko's sustained excellence really is quite something. Having been the youngest player to do this, that and the other down the years, Ko is now the youngest player to be inducted into the LPGA Hall of Fame. She is a true great of our time, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, August 13. Youngster rejects old firm in favour of Arsenal, report by Ewan Payton. St Johnstone's starlet Callan Hamill has rejected approaches by both Rangers and Celtic in favour of a move to Arsenal. The 15-year-old has plenty of options on the table as he approaches his 16th birthday next March, when he will be able to sign professional terms. Hamill is a Scotland youth international and is widely viewed as one of the top talents in his age group. He has been intermittently training with Arsenal in recent times, with Jack Wilshere, the club's academy manager, impressed by the defender. Both of Glasgow's big two had shown a strong interest in the teenager. However, it is understood the youngster has his heart set on a move to the Premier League giants. In the meantime, he will remain at St Johnstone for the season ahead, before making the move to London next summer after he's turned 16. Other English teams had also held an interest in the teen, but the Gunners are viewed as firm favourites to sign Hamill. Saints will receive around £110,000 in cross-border compensation when the move goes through. Had Hamill chosen to remain in Scotland, then the Perth side would have only been due £33,000. Evening Times Sport, August 14. Rangers manager explains why Cerny starts on the bench. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Philippe Clement has explained why he was forced to leave man of the moment Vaclav Cerny out of his Rangers starting 11 against Dynamo Kiev. Cerny, who arrived on loan from Wolfsburg this summer, has been impressive in recent matches, and Clement was desperate to have him on the pitch from the start. However, he revealed the Czech winger was informed by the medical staff that he could not play 90 minutes. Speaking to BBC, the Rangers manager said, "I would have loved to have started with him today, but the medical staff, the performance staff, said it was too big a risk to start the game with him. They think he will have played too many minutes. We also know first half intensity is always bigger than in the second half, so it was more wise to let him come in during the game, where there's maybe a little more space and the rhythm drops with the opponent. But those are choices to make for the moment that I don't like to make, but it is what it is." Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, August 14. Clement slams red card decision. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Rangers manager Philippe Clement described the red card which his winger Jefte received in the Champions League defeat to Dynamo Kiev as the worst decision he has seen in his 30-year football career. The Brazilian winger received a second booking from Italian referee Marco Guida following an innocuous challenge on Alexandre Karabayev in the second leg of the third qualifying round double-header at Hampden. The Glasgow club, who were drawing 0-0 when they were reduced to 10 men, competed well with the Ukrainian visitors after that, but they conceded 2 late goals and ended up suffering a 3-1 aggregate defeat. Clement, whose team will now go into the Europa League group stages, was furious with the decision of the match official, and he said, "In football, sometimes there is a grey zone, and because of that, VAR is there. It helps football to make it more honest. But this decision has nothing to do with grey zone. It was really clear. There was nothing going on. He just jumps higher. He doesn't move his arms next to his body. So it's not a fault. It's nothing. To lose a player at that moment? So I tried to understand the decision, to ask, but the referee stuck to his opinion about it. It was really a clear fault, the second yellow and red. I cannot say it kills the dream at that moment, because that's the thing to be proud of. The players kept on going with them to make a good organisation, to try to find the moments to counter-attack. Before that, we were dominating the game, and we were creating the chances out of that. Not with massive chances, because Dynamo is also a good team. But you saw they were getting tired, and we knew the last half hour we would get more space to get better chances. So yes, the players kept on doing what they had to do. They kept on believing. But then you get the goal against at the end, and then you do a little bit of a gamble, 1 against 1, to try to force something, and you get the second goal against. It is a very decisive moment, and in the end it has killed the dream of a dressing room. It has killed the dream of more than 50,000 fans. You expect a better level in decision making, because this is for me the worst decision I've seen in more than 30 years, especially at this level when there's so much at stake. I have a lot of things in my head, but you guys, the media, know that every word I say is too much. I can get a ban also for the next European game. So let's keep things in my head. I think it's the best way now. I need to be good and smart for the club, for the team. We need to move on. That's what we need to do. Take lessons out of this game. And there are a lot of positive lessons to take out of the 2 games against them. The other things we don't control, so we try not to control the things we cannot control. Rangers would have banked in the region of £40 million if they had managed to make it through to the new Champions League phase, and Clement confessed the loss would have a detrimental impact on his squad rebuild. He continued, "If you go to the Champions League, you can do things faster, because there's £40 million coming into the club. That's not the case now, so it will take more time. That's the reality. But it doesn't mean that the story stops, of course, and you see it already, with young, exciting players coming into the club, making steps, and I don't need to say all the names every time. But to make value for the future, to make next steps, and out of that you can get 2-3 other players, And like this, we need to create a model as a club to grow. Meanwhile, Clermont dismissed concerns about the fitness of Rangers striker Danilo after a video of the Brazilian striker limping on the Hampden turf before kick-off was posted on social media. And he said, "Danny always had that kind of walk from the moment he came in. When he came into the club here, I've been watching him a long time. I wanted to get him to Bruges when he was in Ajax. And he was not playing there. And he had that walk also. Nobody needs to worry about him. There's nothing going on with him. Today I wanted to put him in. That was the idea. But then the circumstances of the game were not there. But people will see him in the next couple of weeks. They don't need to worry about it. It's just about 7 months out. You need time to gain much fitness and then the right moments to get these minutes. And it depends also on the scenarios of the game in that situation." Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, August 14. Chris Boyd says Rangers rebuild delay cost club. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Fuming Chris Boyd confessed that multiple factors, including Philippe Clermont not withdrawing Jeffrey earlier and the ongoing stadium situation, ultimately cost Rangers their opportunity of a significant Champions League windfall. The Light Blues fell to a 2-0 defeat, 3-1 on aggregate, against Dynamo Kyiv, with the Scottish Premiership giants playing the final 40 minutes, ruining the sending off of their summer recruit. Boyd was unsure why Ross McCausland was withdrawn at the interval rather than Jeffrey, who already had ridden his luck before the break after being cautioned, and he was not afraid to stick the boot in at the Rangers board for their handling of off-field matters, as supporters voted with their feet by leaving an eerie feel around their adopted Hampden Park home last night. Speaking about the controversial dismissal, the former Rangers striker said, "I actually thought he would have been the one taken off at half-time because he was yellow-carded in the first half for standing on one of the Dynamo Kyiv players' foot, and he had another couple of challenges after that where you are thinking to yourself, you better watch what you are doing. Then when you see Kearney coming out at the tunnel at half-time, you think, yeah, it's maybe going to be him. But he's picked up a second booking. He does jump. He is high with his arm, but he doesn't catch him." Although after getting another view of the incident, Boyd added, "When you see it like that, it's never a yellow card. When you jump, you have got to use your hands to jump. I mean, honestly, if that's a yellow card, then the game's gone. This brings the whole thing with VAR. I know you cannot check a second yellow card, but it was that bad, horrendous actually. I cannot believe he's been given a second yellow card." Reflecting on Rangers' overall performance, the former Scotland international told Sky Sports News, "Rangers have got to pick themselves up from that. They had a couple of chances after the sending off, but you got the feeling that they could have played all night and they would not have scored. Whereas Kyiv hit on the counter-attack and got 2 goals, 2 well-worked goals from their point of view. Obviously a lot easier against 10 men, but this is a hammer blow for Rangers. It was £5 million. I'm not saying they would have beaten Salzburg in the next round, but the £5 million would have been huge. Could that have been invested in the squad to strengthen it? There's obviously been a few players who have left. You look at that £5 million. It could have got him a few players. Like I said, it's not a guarantee that you beat RB Salzburg, but it's a lot of money for Rangers not to get, especially when you go to Poland last week and you put in the performance you did. You kind of felt going back home, you've got an opportunity. Boyd was not done there, as he took a moment to address the sparse crowd inside the National Stadium, citing that the Rangers fans are clearly not happy at the way the club is being run. And he continued, I must add to it as well, Hampden, 39,000 people in there. The Rangers fans are not happy, and rightly so. I think this whole situation with the stadium, when you look at it, it's come back to cost Rangers again. Champions League night at Ibrox, teams crumble. But tonight there was not really much of an atmosphere here at Hampden. Yes, a few songs, but nothing what it used to be, or what it should have been on a Champions League night. So Rangers find themselves falling out of the Champions League, and they will go into the Europa League. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, August 14. Paris Olympics. J.K. Rowling in gender abuse lawsuit. Report by Gabriel Mackay. J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk have been named in a complaint filed by Olympic champion boxer Emain Khelif regarding cyber abuse. The Algerian was born female and does not identify as transgender or intersex, but was disqualified by the International Boxing Association, the IBA, in March 2023, allegedly due to high testosterone levels. IBA President Umar Kremlev said that the disqualifications were because DNA tests proved they had XY chromosomes, though details of the testing process have not been made public. The International Olympic Committee, the IOC, said the IBA's decision was sudden and arbitrary and without any due process. The IBA's Olympic status was revoked in June 2023. On the run to her gold medal in the women's welterweight at the Paris Olympics, Khelif was subject to accusations and abuse over her gender. She has now filed a criminal complaint to French authorities over alleged acts of aggravated cyber harassment. The lawsuit has been filed against X, formerly Twitter, and according to Khelif's lawyer, Nabil Boudi, names both the website's owner Musk and Harry Potter author Rowling. He told Variety, J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk are named in the lawsuit, among others. What we are asking is that the prosecution investigates not only these people, but whoever it feels necessary. If the case goes to court, they will stand trial. Report by Gabriel Mackay. Evening Times Sport, August 14. Rangers captain reveals referee explanation for red card. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Rangers captain James Tavernier revealed that Italian referee Marco Guida sent off Ibrox winger Jefte in the Champions League qualifying defeat to Dynamo Kiev because he thought he had elbowed his opponent in the face. Tavernier was astonished when the match official showed the Brazilian a second yellow card in the second half of the third qualifying round double-header at Hampden, when the game was still goalless. He felt the summer signing did not even deserve to have a foul awarded against him, following an innocuous coming together with Alexander Karavayev just outside the visitors' penalty area. Television replay showed that Jefty had not elbowed the forward, but referees are not allowed to use VAR to overturn yellow cards. Said Tavarny, I spoke to the referee as it happened. He explained that it was an elbow in the face. Looking back at it during game time, he gets up really early. I thought it wasn't even a free kick. I thought he got up early. There's no malice to what he's done. It's a 50-50 ball that's going up in the air. Jefty gets up really early. He beats him in the air. I don't know how much contact there is. Obviously, that makes a big difference. It's obviously disappointing to not get the chance to go to the next round and try to play a third game to go into the Champions League. We are obviously still in Europe, the Europa League, but during the game the decision changes the whole dynamics of the game. Even with 10 men, we'll still try to push as much as we can and limit them as much as we can. As the game is getting on, we're pushing more and leaving opportunities for them. We had great opportunities, but we were not as clinical as we wanted to be. We kept on asking the question. It's obviously a tough moment trying to go against 11 men. We tried to give it to 11 men. We tried to leave everything out on the pitch. It's just disappointing for all the lads that we couldn't make it happen. We will obviously look back at this and we have to brush it off quickly. We have got another game at the weekend. There's no time to mourn on this. We'll look at the lessons that we can take from it, then we'll brush ourselves off, and we've got to go again. We all wanted to send the fans home happy tonight and get into the next round. It's small details in game that obviously make a massive impact. We need to look back on it, how we played, be critical of ourselves. Meanwhile, Rangers pundit Alan McGregor criticised the verdict, and he believes Marco Guida should not be allowed to referee in the Champions League again following his horrific decision. The former Rangers keeper raged at the Italian whistler and said, "It's a horrific decision. It's that bad. I don't think the referee should work in the Champions League again this season. Anyone with 2 working eyes can see that's not a second yellow card." Meanwhile, Billy Dodds said on BBC Sports Sound, "First impressions, it looks like a disgrace. There was no intention. I think that's a shocker. That's incredible. We know the game is getting modernised, but my word, if you're getting a yellow card when it's not even a foul and getting sent off for that, what's the point? It's ridiculous. Any team with any player doing that would not expect a free kick given against them, and then a yellow, and then a red. The referee is not good enough. He should not be refereeing at this level." His fellow analyst, Derek Ferguson, was fizzing at the verdict and said, "That is a disgrace. That is just a good, honest challenge in the air. Both players have got their eye on the ball. It's not even a foul. That's just an honest challenge." Alan Hutton, who was on BBC Scotland punditry duty, said, "It's a horrendous decision. That's what's cost Rangers tonight. It is a disgrace." Evening Times Sport, August 15. Celtic planning double midfield swoop. Report by David Irvin. Celtic are reportedly plotting a double transfer move for a midfield pair. The Scottish Premiership champions are thought to be watching Belgian wonderkid Aaron Engels, while Dundee's standout Luke McCowan is being considered as a transfer target. According to the Scottish Sun, Celtic are keen on Augsburg man Engels, with the midfielder valued at £10 million, meaning a deal would be Celtic's record fee. Engels is primarily a central midfielder, but can also be deployed on the right flank. The 20-year-old could be viewed as a successor to Matt O'Reilly, with Atalanta potentially ready to increase their interest after agreeing a fee to see Tuan Koopmeiners head for Juventus. That, in turn, could have a knock-on effect in Celtic's pursuit of Engels, with the under-21 cap, signed for around £100,000, available this summer, despite having years left on his Augsburg deal. Meanwhile, McCowan has been touted for a move to Celtic to bolster Brendan Rodgers' squad. It is claimed that the 26-year-old could be a valuable addition at Parkhead as Celtic compete in European and domestic fronts. Hibs have had an offer thrown out for the midfielder, with a fee of around £750,000, not enough for Dundee to part with their star player. However, reports state an approach is now expected from Celtic to try and sign McCowan. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, August 15. Callum McGregor gets a boost after announcing Scotland withdrawal. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Johan Malby reckons Callum McGregor took the courteous decision to announce his Scotland retirement following Euro 2024. The former Celtic assistant manager was Neil Lennon's number 2 when McGregor first came through the ranks, and admitted he was sceptical whether the midfielder would come back from a loan spell at Notts County ready to make a first-team impact. But that's exactly what the 31-year-old done back in 2014, and he's since made almost 500 appearances for the Hoops. With his retirement from international duty letting him focus on continuing to win silverware at Celtic, Malby understands the thought process behind the decision. The Parkhead skipper has started a new campaign in fine form and even netted during the 2-0 Scottish Premiership win over Hibs on Sunday. Malby told the Scottish Football Social Club, "It was a fantastic goal. He's been a stalwart for Celtic for a number of years. I just remember when he was young, he went on loan, and I didn't know if he would come back, obviously being able to start becoming a stalwart at Celtic. But what a great career he's had. It's sad to hear the news that he's going to retire from international duty. I personally think it's a tricky one, because football-wise, he should still obviously play for Scotland. He's a fit lad as well. I just think mentally, if you don't have the motivation to obviously do the double work by playing for both your club and your nation, then it's courteous to make that decision and just focus on the one thing. I cannot personally criticise Callum for this. If he feels this way mentally, then it's the best way to go. Otherwise, it's not going to do him justice when he puts on a Scotland jersey. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, August 15. Rangers former player hits out at board. Report by David Irvin. Rangers hero Charlie Miller has slaughtered the Ibrox board after watching supporters be treated like dirt. The former Rangers player reckons fans have been left paying the price for poor decisions by the club hierarchy. Miller does have faith in Philippe Clement as Rangers manager, but reckons he has not been backed sufficiently, resulting in a team that is hard-working, but players who simply are not good enough. The situation has been capped off for the Ibrox hero by the need to move to Hampden as an alternative venue while work continues on Ibrox. Citing a lack of financial backing in the transfer market, the Ibrox delays, and Edmiston house costs, Miller revealed his sorrow for supporters. He told the Daily Record, "The fans understand the situation. We have no money to sign players. But how there's no money left, I don't understand. It's only a couple of years since the run to the Europa League final and the Champions League groups. That must have brought in millions and millions. All these mistakes off the pitch add up and take away from money that could be better spent on it. How on earth do we end up in this situation with the stadium being out of use? It's diabolical. You've got Edmiston House costing millions more than it should. How? Honestly, it's just been one thing after another, and the fans are the ones bearing the brunt. They are left with a team who, while they do work hard, just simply are not good enough. It's the fans I feel sorry for. They've put in bloody fortunes, and this is how they're repaid. The situation with the stadium, the whole thing is so amateurish. The fans have been treated like dirt." Meanwhile, Rangers have released a statement addressing the latest Celtic ticket fiasco, and they confirm the same notion will be reciprocated when Brendan Rodgers' team takes its team to Ibrox to begin the new year due to an agreement reached with the league's governing body. It means that Rangers fans will be locked out of the upcoming derby clash on September 1. A club statement read, "Rangers have been informed that Celtic will make no allocation for away fans for the September Old Firm game. The allocation to be implemented by both clubs was clear, and Rangers was taking all steps towards fulfilling that agreement. In the meantime, we can confirm that no away allocation will apply for the January Old Firm fixture at Ibrox. This is consistent with the reciprocity embedded in the agreement reached between the clubs and the SPFL." Evening Times Sport, August 15. Brighton circling Matt O'Reilly transfer. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Atalanta are still currently in a fierce battle to secure the signing of Celtic's standout player Matt O'Reilly. The Serie A outfit are expecting to lose Toon Koopmeiners to Juventus this week and have identified the Hoops' talented midfielder who has been making waves in the Scottish Premiership and beyond since arriving from MK Dons in 2022 as their preferred replacement. O'Reilly's impressive performances have caught the attention of several other clubs, but Atalanta seem determined to make him a key part of their plans and will hand him a 5-year deal, according to reports in Italy. It was thought the pathway had been cleared for the transfer to progress to the advanced stage after Southampton pulled out of the race. However, it appears fellow English Premier League side Brighton, who signed Brajan Gurda from Mainz yesterday, are still in discussions with O'Reilly's representatives. Celtic are believed to have earmarked 20-year-old Augsburg star Ern Engels if O'Reilly does seal a transfer exit. The reigning Scottish champions are holding out to receive a fee in excess of £25 million before they can try to prize £9 million rated Engels away from the German Bundesliga. Evening Times Sport, August 15. Duncan Scott sent lovely message by Sir Chris Hoy. Report by Josh Carmichael. Scotland's most decorated Olympian has revealed Sir Chris Hoy sent him a lovely message for breaking his record. Swimmer Duncan Scott, who now has 8 Olympic medals following this year's Games, officially owns more than the Scots cycling star who earned 6 gold medals during his competitive career. On Wednesday, Scott attended an Access to Pools for All programme in his hometown of Stirling at The Peak, a local leisure facility that has received National Lottery funding to give the community a place for children to learn how to swim. Speaking to the PA news agency, the 27-year-old Scott was asked if he had spoken to Sir Howe since overtaking him as Scotland's most decorated Olympian, and he said, "He sent me a lovely message. I've not had time, obviously, being back here. We don't want to bother each other, but he sent me a lovely message, and as I say, he's someone that I've looked up to for many years." Asked how he is feeling now that he has the record for most medals in Scotland, he said, "Yes, it's quite an odd sentence to hear. You know, growing up with so many great sporting idols, and so many greats from Scotland as well, that I've been able to watch on TV. And, you know, from Andy Murray being a real hero of mine to Sir Chris Hoy, someone that I grew up watching dominate on the world stage, Olympics after Olympics. So yes, to be in that kind of company is quite a strange one for me to hear. But it's been an amazing competition. I'm really, really happy." He says that leaving a legacy behind is not something that athletes often set out to achieve, but something unintentional. And he added, "I think that's a real privilege of the sport. And you know, if it's that thing of inspiring the next generation, then that's a real bonus. The real legacy," he continued, "is that the Olympics inspires more people to try a sport for the first time." And he said his recent win was really special, as many of his friends and family were able to be there in person, compared with Tokyo in 2021, where none of his friends or family were able to attend, with much of the world in lockdown. He added, "But yes, being in Paris, it meant they were able to have a really big British crowd, and yes, my family and friends took real advantage of that." He says he will remember competing in this year's Olympics as fond memories. Asked if he is expecting to compete in the Los Angeles 2028 Olympics, he said, "Well, that's a wee while away, but you know, from between now and then, there's no need for me to come close to stopping anytime soon. I'll be as good as I can get at the minute, and there's so many areas that I can improve on, so much in the sport that I've not achieved, and I'll try as well so I can be in that team in the LA." Report by Josh Carmichael. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Graham McGarry asks, "Can injury hit Motherwell shock Rangers once again?" I was fortunate enough to be invited into hospitality for the Motherwell match last Saturday, with my very thoughtful friend Davy astutely observing that it might take a pint or 4 for me to get through the game. Us journalists do love a freebie after all, but somehow I still came home feeling as though I had been short-changed. It was not a pretty watch, improved as the display was from Motherwell's previous week of underwhelming against Partick Thistle. At least there was the odd chance carved out against Ross County, and one or two glaring ones at that. A combination of poor finishing from Zach Robinson and Moses Ebeye, and some good goalkeeping from Ross Lodleo, ensured that the Fir Park faithful were subjected to their second goalless draw in succession. Just like the previous week, many of them made their feelings plain at the final whistle, with boos ringing out around the stadium. On the face of it, there may seem to be a whiff of entitlement about such a reaction on the opening day of the season, but I can certainly see why some punters were cheesed off by what they had witnessed and shared some of their frustrations. There are, of course, many mitigating factors for Motherwell's rather lacklustre showing in attack. The players are still getting up to full sharpness. Robinson, having not scored a goal since the tail end of January in a Dundee win over Livingston, looks short of confidence. There were frustrations around me about the setup being too negative, as well as the substitutions, and there is a validity to both points. Just as pertinent, though, is the lengthy injury list that is hamstringing the way that the team functions. The news about Sam Nicholson's long-term absence through a patella injury is particularly unwelcome on the back of the Ross County display, with a gaping Blair Spittle-shaped hole in the side, leaving the midfield short of someone to really link with the attack. That mix in the middle of the park, with three players in Lennon Miller, who is a doubt for Hampden tomorrow, Andy Halliday, and Davor Dravskovsky, all essentially trying to do the same job, is far from ideal. Ross Callaghan was the man brought on at the weekend for Miller to try and bring something different, but he too will now be out for several months after picking up an injury. When it comes to injuries, sometimes you just have to curse your luck. You can do everything right. Your preparation can be meticulous. And as Stuart Kettlewell argued, you end up picking up a spate of them despite that. Sometimes, though, you also have to play the odds, and maybe by taking risks on certain players, you leave yourself open to the risk that things like this might happen. Motherwell have at least 8 first-team players down and limping into Hampden to face Rangers at the weekend, a game where the defensive solidity of this side will be put to the test. In some ways, then, it might not be the worst fixture for Motherwell to have up next. The manager seems to have looked at the stats from last season, where Motherwell were the third highest scorers in the division, but only 3 teams conceded more goals than they did. And he has decided to remedy the leaky defence. What that has cost in an offensive sense is another question, but the backline does appear to have a more solid look about it in the early stages of the campaign. I would not underestimate the impact an imposing goalkeeper like Aston Oxborough can have on that, and he has looked assured in the last couple of games. Liam Gordon looks to be a good addition as well, bringing leadership and aggression to the heart of the defence. Perhaps even the James Webb telescope would struggle to find positives in the last 2 matches. But the defensive organisation could have Motherwell get through a tricky few weeks. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Bernardo looks to replace O'Reilly if he leaves. Report by Graham McGarry. Paul Bernardo is eyeing up Matt O'Reilly's place in the Celtic midfield, whether his teammate leaves the club this summer or not. The Portuguese midfielder sealed a permanent return to the champions last week on a 5-year deal after a largely successful loan spell last season, and wants to earn his place in Brendan Rodgers' starting 11 on a more regular basis than he managed last term. Whether that means dislodging the likes of O'Reilly from the midfield trio, or stepping up to replace the Danish international should one of his many suitors manage to prize him away from Celtic Park, Bernardo is certain he is capable of doing so. Said Bernardo, "I don't know what will happen. I'm here to do my job, and if he stays or not, I want to take the place. That's it. I feel I will work for sure and get my opportunities as well." Bernardo was hugely impressed by the way O'Reilly took his game to another level last season under Rodgers, markedly increasing his tally of goals and assists to become a consistent contributor for Celtic in attack, and he hopes he will be able to emulate that sort of productivity in the coming campaign. He continued, "That's my goal, to level up the numbers. I think all the players want that. I feel the sky is the limit. I always live that way." The Celtic fans have a good idea of the qualities that Bernardo can bring to their side after his loan spell, but he feels he can bring even more to the table than he showed last season. Last week, Celtic captain Callum McGregor stressed the importance of his teammates showing leadership, and Bernardo hopes to help drive the dressing room by becoming a member of that leadership group. He continued, "I got to be a captain in the 21s from Portugal, so it was really nice to be in that position. I think I have this leadership in me, now that I come back, and it was not just one season. I know my teammates well now. I can improve myself. My manager in Portugal says that every player has to be a captain, and the armband is only like a representative for the team. Every player has to be a captain. I think Callum McGregor is a great captain, and for me he's the best leader that I've had. But he can call for more players to do that, to help him." Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Celtic captain McGregor announces retirement from international football. Report by David Irvin. Celtic captain Callum McGregor has announced his retirement from international football. The 31-year-old midfielder has called time on his career representing Scotland after 63 caps for the national team. In a statement released by Celtic, McGregor said of his decision, "I have made a decision which was very difficult, of course, but a decision which I feel is the right one at the right time. It was very important I spoke to Steve Clarke, and I did that this week to make him aware of my intentions. As I said to Steve, I just felt the time is right for me to move on from international football. It has been a huge honour to achieve 63 caps for my country, as appearing just once would have been a dream come true. So to achieve 63 and be inducted into the Roll of Honour at 50 caps is something I could only have dreamed of as a young kid. Throughout my career, I wanted to make myself available for Scotland at all times and whenever selected, give the absolute maximum possible to help the country and represent the supporters with passion and pride. International football has been a really important part of my career, where I have learned so much and achieved some incredible highs, that famous night in Serbia being one of the very best, and I have been blessed to share these experiences with some great people. Playing for Scotland always meant so much to me, and reaching 2 major tournaments will always be a source of real pride, and scoring at Hampden in the Euros in front of our fantastic supporters will always be a special highlight for me. Of course, like many others, I wish we could have gone further in these competitions, but nonetheless it has been a privilege to have played for my country on such a stage, and to have represented my country for such a long period. I have worked with some excellent managers, teammates and staff, and I thank them all for their incredible efforts during the time we have had together. I would like to wish Steve, the current Scotland players and all the players who follow me nothing but success for the future. I also want to give special and sincere thanks to the Scotland fans who have supported me so brilliantly during my time. The level of passion and commitment which our fans bring is second to none, and something which I will always remember. Scotland manager Steve Clarke commented, "Callum's consistency of performance and leadership qualities have been a real catalyst in the team's return to major tournaments. He has been a driving force in the middle of the park, and in many ways is a coach's dream. He is low maintenance, leads by example, and sets the highest standards every day in training and in matches. That professionalism and dedication has been a huge influence in our squad. We had a very good chat, and while I am disappointed to lose Callum's qualities, I can understand the rationale behind his decision. He will be missed by his teammates, the coaches, the backroom staff, and of course the fans. I would like to thank him for all that he has contributed and helped us achieve." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Drumchapel United girls get new gear from Partick Thistle star. Report by Sandhya Suresh. Players at the Drumchapel United Girls Football Club have scored new equipment thanks to Partick Thistle star Amy Bullock. The midfielder nominated the club for a prize giveaway from Scottish Power. To celebrate its partnership with Scottish Women's Football and the Scottish Women's Premier League, the company donated 6 kits with cones, bibs, water bottles, and under-14-sized Puma footballs to chosen grassroots clubs. Scottish Power asked the captains of the top 6 Scottish Women's Premier League teams to select a community club they value for its contribution to developing girls' youth football. Amy said, "Over the past 10 years, the growth in the women's game has been incredible. However, when it comes down to training facilities, equipment and resources, there is still a need for additional support. For the girls coming to clubs, it is really important that they have access to kit like this. It helps create an inclusive and equal environment, which in turn makes them feel more comfortable to just go and play. Hopefully it encourages more girls to come into a club environment to play their football." Rosie Brown, coach for Drumchapel United, received the new gear at a training session supported by Suzanne Eden, a community liaison officer with Scottish Power, and she said, "It is important for us that we get more girls into grassroots football, that they can come in as young players and stay with us for a long time. We are a club that has access for all, and having training kit like this will help us encourage as many girls through the door as possible." Scottish Power works with both SWF and the SWPL to promote the growth of women's football. Keith Anderson, Chief Executive of Scottish Power, said, "We want to encourage women's football for both current and future generations, and build a community of players that inspire even more people to play and enjoy the game. By providing training kit and asking those players at the top of the game to nominate a community club to receive it, we are making sure that everyone can benefit from this partnership, whether at the elite end of the game or those all-essential grassroots." Report by Sanja Suresh. Evening Times Sport, August 9. Stuart Hogg suffers injury blow, weeks after retirement U-turn. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Stuart Hogg's anticipated return to rugby has hit a minor roadblock, as reports from France indicate that an injury will prevent him from starting the 24-25 season with Montpellier. The former Scotland captain announced in July his decision to come out of retirement and signed a medical joker contract to join the French top 14 side. This announcement came just a year after he had initially accelerated his retirement plans. In early 2023, Hogg indicated he would conclude his playing career at the Rugby World Cup. However, he made the surprising decision to retire earlier in July 2023, citing a decline in his training performance with the national team. Following his retirement, Hogg quickly transitioned to a role as a TV pundit with TNT Sports and the BBC. Yet he later reconsidered his decision and rejoined the playing ranks. Just 4 weeks ago, he began pre-season training with Montpellier, who had narrowly avoided relegation after a challenging 23-24 season that required a playoff victory against Grenoble. Unfortunately, Montpellier will now start their new season without Hogg, who is expected to be sidelined for about 6 weeks due to a torn calf sustained during training. According to L'Équipe, Stuart Hogg will miss the start of the season. The 32-year-old fullback, who had retired a year prior to the World Cup, was injured with a torn calf during a training session after showing promising recovery signs since the team returned to training on July 17. The report further noted that the average recovery time for such an injury is at least 6 weeks, meaning Hogg will miss the opening match against Lyon on September 7. He had joined Montpellier as a medical joker for Anthony Boutier, who is recovering from a serious knee injury and is not expected to return until early 2025. Report by Robbie Hanratty.
From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 17th of August. From the sports section, exclusive. Fighting is terrifying, says Cumbernauld Muay Thai world champion, by Charles Pring. The fighting bit is terrifying, says a woman from Cumbernauld who recently became a Muay Thai world champion at Braehead Arena. Rona Walker, 31, has been practising the martial art of Muay Thai since she was 17. On August 10, 14 years later, she reached the pinnacle of her sport by landing the World Kickboxing Association bantamweight title in front of a packed Braehead crowd. "It's a bit surreal," Rona said. "I've been fighting for a long time, so it's nice to be able to say I'm a world champion. When I talk to people about Muay Thai, they normally assume it's just a hobby. But if you say you're a world champion, people realise that you're quite serious about it." Rona was introduced to martial arts through her parents, both of whom practiced Taekwondo. Her dad Cameron also coaches Muay Thai, and Rona said he is her main inspiration in the sport. "At first I just went along to watch my dad training," she said. "As I got a bit older, I thought I'd join in and start doing classes, really just because I like going with my dad more than anything. I coach now as well as fighting, and seeing how involved my dad still is and how much time he gives to people is something I really aspire to. He's still there holding the pads for me every morning." Her dad Cameron said it was an emotional moment seeing Rona clinch a world title, a fitting reward for her years of hard work and dedication. "I'm so proud of her as a dad," he added, "but as a coach too, she's the hardest working fighter I've ever seen." Rona agreed that her dad was quite emotional after the fight, though he wasn't all that pleased with it being captured on camera. "There are a few pictures from the end of the fight of him in tears. I don't think he was very happy about being outed as a crybaby." Despite going through 52 fights, Rona said she's not at all a violent person. "Other than in the ring, I've never been in a fight of any kind," she said. "Believe it or not, I don't like confrontation. If someone started shouting at me, I'd probably start crying." She says that the years of training have given her a steely perseverance which has helped her in other walks of life. "It's taught me to be disciplined," she said. "Before Muay Thai, there was nothing that I had to make sacrifices for. But now I need to be strict. I need to make sure I'm running, that I'm staying fit, lifting weights, eating the right things. So it's given me this self-discipline, which has helped in other difficult areas of life. Things where I think this is going to be rubbish, I don't want to do this. I know I can do it. It's given me that extra willpower." Rona enjoys the team spirit at the MMAG fight team gym where she's based in Kirkintilloch, though she says the fights are terrifying. "I really enjoy the camaraderie," she said. "Everyone's helping each other. There's no ego in martial arts gyms because someone will just punch your head in if you've got an attitude. The actual fighting bit is terrifying. I get nervous each time, but there's no feeling quite like winning a fight. By the time I'm in the ring, the nerves are gone. It's hard to be nervous when someone's trying to hit you in the face." While some will be satisfied with one world title in their back pocket, that's not the mindset of champions like Rona. "I'm hoping to fight for a few more belts now that I've got my first. It would be nice to have a few more. I'd love to unify the belts, become an undisputed world champion. That's the goal, try and get as many world titles as I can." And the article was an exclusive by Charles Pring. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 17th of August, from the sports section. Shell-shot Chris Boyd reports Premier League horror injury. Article written by David Irvin. Shell-shot Chris Boyd this afternoon reported on a horror injury for a Premier League player. The former Rangers striker was on Sky Sports duty covering the match between Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth on the opening day of the season. However, a sombre mood quickly developed at the City ground after a major injury to home player Danilo. The midfielder suffered a horror leg injury with his limb just dangling after snapping following an aerial duel in the early stages of the match. Screens were erected around Danilo after the serious injury, as the player received immediate treatment during a 7-minute delay before he was replaced by Ryan Yates. The awful injury resulted in a silent crowd at the City ground, with supporters of both clubs hugely concerned for the 23-year-old. Boyd reported, "Danilo and Semedo just jumped for the ball in the middle of the pitch, and Danilo just came down and his leg just snaps. You just see it dangling, it's horrible to see. As you see there, 7 minutes and Ryan Yates has come on for him. It's obviously sad for Danilo, 20 years old, so you're hoping he can get himself back, because he has got quite a long future in the game. When you see stuff like that, The crowd was right up for it, but you could hear a pin drop now. It's quiet. You're hoping, well, from Nottingham Forest's point of view, that they were wanting to get an effort on goal or something to happen, to try and get the crowd going again. And that report was written by David Irvin and read by me, Ian McKenna.
Evening Times Sport, August 19. Lauren Coughlin digs deep to win Women's Scottish Open. Report by Nick Roger. We may as well pinch a lyric from an old Meatloaf song to describe Lauren Coughlin's fine victory in the ISPS Handa Women's Scottish Open at Dundonald Links. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Let's hope we don't have to pay any royalties. Coughlin joined the LPGA Tour back in 2018 and finally made her breakthrough on the circuit in last month's Canadian Open. Her silver lining in Scotland means the American has now won twice in her last 3 starts. Not bad at all, eh? With a terrific display of poise and polish in the testing Ayrshire conditions, Coughlin recovered from a shoeless start and closed with a 3 under 69 for a 15 under aggregate and eased to a 4-shot triumph over Germany's Esther Henseleit. It's unbelievable, beamed Coughlin after picking up the first prize of $300,000. 2 wins in 3 events is pretty crazy. If you would have told me I would have 2 wins at the beginning of last year, I wouldn't believe it. It's incredible. It just shows how hard I've worked to get here. I was definitely thinking about winning the night before, but in the morning I was pretty calm about it. I was just trying to stay in the present and tried not to think about winning. It's really a cliche, but it was 1 shot at a time. That's what I was trying to do. It's amazing. With her 2nd win of the season in the bag, Coughlin has done enough to secure her place in the United States Solheim Cup team for next month's transatlantic tussle with Europe in the state of Virginia, where she grew up. And she continued, I've had big goals for this year with the Solheim Cup and all that, so that's been on my mind. I knew I needed to improve, and that's what I've been trying to do all along. On another tough day at Dundonald, Coughlin, who held a slender 1-shot lead over Megan Kang after 54 holes, stumbled out of the blocks with 2 bogeys on her first 4 holes. It certainly was not the start she was looking for, but Coughlin is made of stern stuff. A brace of birdies at the 5th and 7th helped to steady the ship and got her ahead of Kang again after her compatriot had nipped in front. Said Coughlin of that initial splutter, I started out a little slow, but I managed to hang in there and was able to settle nicely. Kang's challenge faded as she failed to make another birdie after the 5th, while Japan's Ayaki Furu, the Women's Scottish Open champion in 2022, made a gallant push with a fine 68, which was a noble effort in the wind. Henseleit, who took the silver medal in the Olympic golf event in Paris the previous weekend, became Coughlin's biggest threat on the back 9, but the American stayed off her advances. With a calm, composed performance, Coughlin picked up 3 birdies coming home and single-putted her final 7 holes. A crucial up and down on the 12th underlined the quality of her scrambling when things were tight at the top. The way she preserved her position of authority was mightily impressive. Coughlin trundled in a putt of 20 feet for a great par at the 16th, mounted another good salvage operation from just off the green at the 17th, and holed a 25-footer for birdie at the last to finish with a flourish. Coughlin now heads to St Andrews for this week's AIG Women's Open. With a spring in her step, she could probably float over to the East Coast on an updraft of her own confidence. The Dundonald tune-up will stand her in good stead for the ultimate links test in the all-grey tune. And she said, "Obviously, you come over here to get some reps on links and in the wind ahead of the Open. It's so different to being back in the States. The win is just the cherry on the top." Coughlin certainly enjoyed her time in Ayrshire. "Troon is a fun place," she added of her home for the week. "I was staying in an Airbnb. It's awesome. She'll be getting the freedom of the town at this rate." Henselite, a two-time winner on the Ladies European Tour, signed off with a 70 for 11 under to finish runner-up again after her Olympic silver. She said, "I had a little go on the back nine, but Lorraine played amazing golf. Even when she was in trouble, she got out of it really quickly. Her up and down on the 16th was pretty special." Kang, who closed with a 74, shared third with Furu on 9 under, while Charlie Hull fell away with a 73 and was fifth on 8 under. Report by Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, August 19. Rogers delighted to see Maida thrive as striker. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Brendan Rodgers praised Celtic's fantastic performance as they eased past Hibs in the Premier Sports Cup and set up a last 8 tie against Falkirk. Daizen Maida started by grabbing a brace, while Nicholas Kuhn sealed the victory. The result maintained the Hoops' unbeaten run, which stretches back to March 3. Rodgers was delighted with his team's application and how they reduced Hibs to very few clear-cut opportunities. The Celtic manager beamed. "I thought we were very good. I thought we were excellent, and from the start of the game we showed our hunger. We said before the game that our playmaker today will be our counter-pressing, and our counter-pressing was there. We were winning so many second balls, third balls. Our only real danger was from throw-ins, because they've got guys on either side of the pitch that can throw it in and add a little bit of pressure and can make you fret a little bit when the ball's coming in. But I thought we dealt well with that. So we didn't give too much away. Their header was a great header, so we don't have any complaints on that. Maybe we can shift our wall back a little bit, but overall the tempo of the game, the speed of the game, and the quality in attacking moments was fantastic." Maida rewarded Rodgers by netting a first-half brace, and he impressed leading the line in Kyogo's absence. Discussing the forward's positive contribution, Rodgers added, "He's the one that I have absolutely no doubt that he can play there. I've seen a lot of him with Celtic, but I've also seen a lot of him with Japan. He's played in the World Cup as a striker, and in his 2 games for me as a striker he scored 5 goals. He's got a hat-trick in Yokohama, and he's got 2 today. His goals were very good, getting to the front post, which we want our strikers to do, and running in behind, which we want them to do. So 2 very good goals." Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, August 19. Brian Graham hits out at unacceptable medical response. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Partick Thistle women's manager Brian Graham expressed his concern over the treatment of midfielder Courtney Stewart, who experienced a seizure following a head injury during Sunday's Scottish Women's Premier League match against Rangers. Graham revealed that, despite the serious incident occurring in the 10th minute of their 4-0 defeat at Broadwood Stadium, Stewart had to wait for hours for an ambulance, highlighting a stark contrast in the level of medical attention provided compared to what is typically afforded in men's top-flight football. Graham revealed, "In the 10th minute we have had a really serious head injury in the middle of the park, and she's still lying in the medical room. We're still waiting on an ambulance, which I don't really think is acceptable, but I cannot thank Rangers medical staff and the first aiders. They have been brilliant with her, but I just think we would not get this in the men's game. A real serious head injury, and my players in there still waiting for an ambulance. I just don't think it's acceptable." Graham was understandably visibly upset and concerned about Stewart's welfare, and went on to say, "I don't know what we can change, because it obviously comes down to finance, but at the same time we're in there and she just wants to go to sleep, and we're trying to keep her awake. As I said, it was in the 10th minute of the game. The game's finished a long time ago and she's still waiting on an ambulance. We are obviously first and foremost thinking about her and her own safety, and we're trying to keep her awake, but I think the ambulance should be here a long time ago." Many worried observers took to social media to highlight the horrifying situation, with Scotland star Erin Cuthbert stating, "Really hope Courtney is okay and makes a full recovery, but this is unacceptable and the game deserves better." While another fan wrote, "More action is required for the women's game. This is the second time a SWPL club has had to wait a long time for an ambulance." And a third commented, "That's shocking." Providing clarity on how Stewart's health was progressing, Partick Thistle posted an update on social media at around 10 p.m. last night, and it read, "An update on Courtney Stewart. After suffering a head injury 10 minutes into the game against Rangers, Courtney was taken by an ambulance at just after 5 p.m. to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. Courtney is still in hospital but is awake, alert and talking, and CT scans and X-rays have been clear. We would like to thank physio Alana McPherson, the Rangers Women's Football Club medical team, and the St John's first aiders for their excellent response. We'd also like to wish a speedy recovery to Rangers player Laura Rafferty." Report by Robbie Hanratty.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q&Review and to tell your friends about our service.